Hello everybody, this will truly be the last chapter of 2018, unofficially. Officially, it's supposed to be the first chapter of 2019, and because of that, it's going to be a while before we see a new chapter again, after this one. It's going to be a long wait for 9:30. So we got the Shonen Jump heroes in the cover, kind of wishing everybody a happy new year, and then we get this amazing gorgeous looking color spread. I kind of get the feeling that Oda was going for like a Naruto reference by choosing to color Luffy with orange and also drawing him with goggles. Usopp's using Shadow Clone Jutsu in this, the girls are up front, and everybody looks great in this color spread. But I will say that I really actually enjoy Sanji's design in this a lot more than in the actual manga itself. Like, I wish this had been Sanji's Wano outfit. He looks so cool in this. I feel like not just Sanji, but Frankie and Usopp as well. I think Sanji, Frankie, and Usopp, those designs, I actually like them better in the color spread. Maybe if they change costumes somewhere down the road, Oda can give them something similar to these costumes that they have right now, because the three of them look really beastly in this color spread. And yes, technically I know that Sanji at some point I think has to use the raid suit, but before that, like, him rocking that ninja gear would be great. The first part of the chapter is Frankie's side quest to figure out where the blueprints for Onigashima Mansion actually are. And it's a fun read. You know, I kind of got the Saturday morning cartoon vibe out of that sequence where he's like going to different places asking for them. It's a funny little sequence, but then by the end I started thinking about like how little information we actually ended up getting out of it. So it's kind of like, like I wonder why Oda decided to stretch it as long as he did. Was it just because he thought it was fun, or was it because he really wanted to hit a certain page number and he just wanted to incorporate that just to stretch out the chapter a little bit more? Because really all we find out is that the person who stole the blueprints was a male and that he was from Kuri, and that's pretty much it. Aside from the fact that apparently Kinemon seems to have some suspicion of who that person might be. But if you look at the wiki, for people who actually live in Kuri or people who were from Kuri, the list is pretty big. So it's like, you know, it's a pretty big guess to sort of like speculate at this point who actually took the blueprints. It could be Hawkins, it could be Hitetsu, Tenguyama, it could also be Komurasaki, Lady Hiyori disguised as a male, or maybe she sent a male to get those blueprints if she's thinking about taking up revenge against Kaido for what he did to her family. Then again, if the item was stolen 10 years ago, that kind of narrows it down, I guess, a little bit, because it can't be any of the Supernova. It could actually also be the drummer guy, Yasu, that's with Zoro in this chapter, because he says that he's from Okobore town. Okobore is the leftover town, right? So he could be the guy with the blueprints as well. That's the thing about Kuri, is that there's a whole bunch of little towns all over the place there. I did notice something, however, and that's the fact that if you look at the first page of the chapter, inside of Minatomo's workshop, in the corner, you see a Kaza hat, one of these straw hats. It has a square on the top, and the design just reminded me of that character, that unidentified retainer from the Kozuki clan that we saw before the time jump when the palace was burning up. So I'm really curious as to why that hat was in Minatomo's shop to begin with. The hat is also very similar to the one that Shiki was wearing in that cover page when he was having a drink with Crocus. The Kanjiro bit was funny. All those people that are buying his fish are probably just going to get a mouthful of ink. I was actually confused though, because the translation I read called him Kanjiro of the Evening Rain, and I was like, of the rain? I was like, wait, does that mean that he's connected to Shiryu? But no, the proper translation for his name is Evening Shower, Kanjiro. So it was just a translation issue. We find out that Inuarashi is trying to apparently incriminate Shutenmaru, Ashura Doji, by sort of like leaving notes on his behalf, saying that he was the one who is stealing Kaido's henchmen's supplies. And I think the reason for why Duke Inuarashi wanted Wanda to do that is because he wants Kaido's men to try and find Shutenmaru, try and fight him, and he wants Shutenmaru to reconsider joining them because he didn't want to join them. So if Kaido is like vehemently and adamantly after him, he'll probably think about it twice and think, well, maybe I should join you guys just for the sake of it, because I'm being chased here. So it seems like a manipulation tactic in order to be able to gain Ashura Doji's allegiance and help. Then we go to Zoro, who's making his way to the flower capital. But before that, they're probably going to pass through Okobore town. If that translation is correct, that should be Okobore town again, which means that he's essentially going back to the same place that he left, or where he was with Luffy. So it's kind of like he's returning back to where he was. So it's kind of like all that just for this little tale from this guy called Yosu. But by the way, this character is just basically an exposition tool. He's just there to sing a song and say, I'm going to tell you what happened during the time that you didn't see Zoro. Taiko drum carrier Tonoyasu. This is a taiko drum. It's a type of Japanese drum that is usually used to hype stuff up, which kind of fits because all he does in this chapter is hyping Zoro up. I think he's also kind of like a foreshadowing tool, talking about how like the ladies would probably go crazy for a guy like him. Maybe a Wano lady, a kunoichi, or maybe a geisha, or hey, maybe Komurasaki falls for Zoro or something. I don't know. Like, it seems like that's very clear foreshadowing. Otherwise, why even have that line there? But I think the most important part here is that the same thing that happened to Sanji on screen happened to Zoro off screen. And that's the fact that they were ambushed by underlings of the Kyoshido family, of the Kyoshido clan. And so obviously those underlings were defeated. And then after that happened with Sanji, well, you know what happened. Like, they contacted Queen to send in some assassins, and we find out who those assassins are by the end of the chapter. So I'm guessing that the same thing is going to happen here with Zoro. So maybe we'll get to meet more of these flying fighters, these top headliner characters, very soon, if they're also trying to find or chase Zoro for what he did when he was gambling. We finally get the reveal of Shogun Orochi's design in this chapter, and I have to say that I am massively, massively disappointed in the way that he looks, but I am not ready to just write him off as a weakling or as a scrub just yet, because there is something that I noticed during his meeting with CP0. By the way, the CP0 agents that we see here, 2 out of the 3 are the same ones that we saw in Dressrosa, that showed up when Doflamingo was lying to the public and saying that he was sort of just stepping down from being a Shichibukai. So we see 2 out of the 3. We don't know who these characters are exactly, but we do know who they can't be. It can't be Rob Lucci, it can't be Kaku, and it can't be Stussy. Those 3 characters are at the Reverie right now, and Oda did mention in Jump Festa that something pretty big was going to happen in the Reverie. So, Rob Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy, they're in the Reverie. They can't be here right now. So a thing I noticed about Shogun Orochi is that he's definitely not a smile user. Like, his devil fruit is a legit devil fruit. He's a legit Zoan. And you can tell for 2 reasons. Number 1, there are panels where you see the snakes, silhouettes, and you can tell that he has control over how many heads he chooses to show, or he actually has at the same time. So he has a lot of control over his devil fruit powers. Usually smile users don't have that kind of control. They're just kind of like, deformed versions of the original Zoans. And another thing is that there's one head in particular, one snake head, that has his top knot, which means that he can shift his face to become a snake. So he has a lot of control, a lot of mastery over his Yamata no Orochi devil fruit powers. He's probably a mythical type Zoan, and those are pretty powerful for the most part. So I just want to just reiterate the fact that he may not be as weak as his human design makes him seem. Now, ever since we got to Wano, I started thinking about how many arcs are left in the story of One Piece, and so I came to the conclusion that, well, obviously Wano has to be one of them. We have to have an Elbaf arc, and we have to have a Raftel arc, and I also said at one point that I felt that we needed to have some type of a Vegapunk arc, but this chapter opens up a door in the sense that maybe Oda is thinking about combining this Vegapunk arc with Wano by having Vegapunk be brought to Wano, because we saw the Shogun ask CP0, we want Vegapunk. So we might get to meet Vegapunk by the end of the arc. And so maybe we find out about all the important information that we need from him by him being brought to Wano against his will by CP0, instead of us going to find Vegapunk in another island or in another place. Because, Orochi seemed pretty confident about this threat. In fact, he seemed cocky. The Celestial Dragons, the Marines, we do not fear them. I've got Kaido himself at my back. Those are some strong words. Because I'm pretty sure that, not even him, not even the Shogun, and I don't think even Kaido knows about Imu, about Aim. And that's like a hidden threat that nobody knows about. So I think he's being a little bit cocky when he says this. But I do think that CP0 will try and fulfill this request, because I think Vegapunk's function is done. At least when it comes to the Marines, he already created apparently this force that is strong enough to substitute for the Shichibukai. Remember, Fujitora wants to dismantle that system, and they're going to do it by replacing them with whatever Vegapunk invented. So I'm pretty sure that at least part of his role in the Marines, like, he's probably already done like the most important part of his job. Maybe, I mean, I'm not saying he's not valuable. He obviously is. That's why Orochi wants him. But maybe CP0 actually decides to follow the request and bring Vegapunk to Wano. So Orochi's having a banquet there with Kyoshido, Robin's there, as well as Komurasaki, and he's wasting food. At one point he says, like, I don't like chicken, so if Sanji ever finds out about that, he'll probably have a problem with that. I mean, he's just like a slimy, just royal head figure. And usually in anime, there's a trope in which these types of characters are usually trash, to be honest. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because of the stuff that I mentioned with his devil fruit. But until I see something cool, I'm just like, I'm very skeptical right now. Just very, very skeptical. Again, very disappointed by his design, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Now, the best part of the chapter, by far, is Dino X-Drake showing up with his buddy, Page 1, to hunt down Sanji. I think this was a great ending, and I'm a little bit confused because, like, Law tells Sanji, hey, Blackleg, go hide somewhere. And Sanji's like, oh, well, if they want some more food, I can hook them up. But it's like, why is Sanji, like, not understanding that they're there for him? Like, it just seems like a very obvious thing. Especially with Sanji's level of observation, he should be able to sense how strong these guys are. Hawkins is there for Law. I mean, that's pretty much a given at this point. And so these two dinosaurs are the assassins that Queen sent over to take down Sanji. And I think it's a little bit, it's hilarious, but it's also kind of crappy that, like, Frankie was also involved in defeating the Kyoshido family underlings, but he's not there. Although technically he's fired, so maybe he can jump into this fight and help Sanji. Because I think it's obvious that it's going to be Hawkins versus Law, and then Sanji versus, like, I don't know if it's going to be Sanji versus Drake or Sanji versus Page 1. But Sanji has to do something here because they're after him. And but here I'm torn. I don't see Drake taking an L this early. That would be just massively disappointing. Because he's one of the characters, he's one of the supernovas that needs to be more fleshed out as a character. We know that he was in the Doflamingo flashback, he was in the Law flashback, his father had the Opi Opi no Mi, so he has to have some knowledge about how that fruit works, which kind of indirectly connects him with Law. We also know that he was a rear admiral in the Marines, and we still have no explanation for why he left the Marines and decided to become a pirate. We also know, feat-wise, there's a bunch of stuff feat-wise that could be expanded upon in regards to his character. We know that at the very least he has armament hockey because he defeated Caribou. Caribou is a Logia, and in order for one to defeat a Logia, there needs to be some armament hockey. We also know that when it comes to devil fruits, the Zoan types that are carnivores are said to be the most vicious of the bunch. So, I mean, that pretty much speaks for itself, right? You have two dinosaur Zoans. We also know that pre-time skip Drake was able to injure a pacifista, which is a feat that took the combined efforts of the Straw Hats to be able to achieve. And then he also casually blocked a fight, a clash between Killer and Urouge. So these are the supernova feats when it comes to X-Drake. And these are pre-time skip feats, so he's definitely a lot stronger now. Now, if you look at his hybrid form, this guy, this man, this Dino Man is jacked. And I have to say this, I always was under the assumption that he was a T-Rex. Turns out that he's actually an Allosaurus, which is actually smaller than a T-Rex, as you can see in this graph here. And Page 1, the Spinosaurus, is actually, like, he's the big guy. Look at how big he is in this graph. You see the comparison there? Bigger than the T-Rex, bigger than Allosaurus. Now, just because he's bigger, though, I do not think that automatically means that he's a lot stronger than Drake. In fact, if you base this solely on the card order that Oda has established and been following up until this point, you can pretty much argue that technically Drake should be the closest in power to Jack, to a Calamity. If you follow the card order with Kaido at the top, then King, then Queen, then Jack, then X-Drake. X being the Roman numeral for 10, also DS Drake, DS meaning 10 in Spanish. You get the picture. If you follow that order, you can make the argument power scaling wise. Also, I found out that Page 1 is actually a card game similar to Uno in the sense that whoever wins is the person that doesn't have cards by the end. So it's a Japanese card game, and that continues the card game theme throughout Kaido's army. I'm also really hoping that each of these top headliner fighters actually has a devil fruit that is a dinosaur Zoan, just because I really want to see a Velociraptor, a Triceratops, and a Tyrannosaurus Rex as well. Also, the fact that we know that there's 6 of these guys makes me think that each calamity gets 2 of these guys under them. So in this case, maybe Drake and Page 1 work under Queen, and we still need to find out who works under King and under Jack. It would make sense given the fact that there's 6 and there's 3 calamities. Now I'm a little bit fearful because usually the way that Oda handles Supernova fights is just to show us a little clash and then cut away from it. But my biggest fear, though, is that he's just going to skip it or off-screen this. That would be terrible. I really want to see Drake do something. Again, there's too much important backstory relying on Drake for him to be defeated this early on in the arc. But on the other hand, when it comes to Sanji, that boy needs to catch a W. Quick. Drake also has a secret objective that we don't know about that is mentioned by Hawkins in the end of this chapter. So the bottom line is this. If Drake loses here, or if Sanji loses here, we're going to have some problems. The One Piece community will be getting into some heated debates come 2019 if either of those 2 things happen. Overall, I thought the chapter was solid. Shout out to the 2 dinosaur designs that we got by the end. The Spinosaurus looks so realistic. Just amazing talent from Oda when it comes to, drawing things and making them look realistic when it comes to this world of One Piece, which is also very cartoony. Combining those 2 things, he's a master at that. Thank you so much for watching, and especially thank you for sticking by me throughout this entire year. I don't know about you guys, but 2018 was a very difficult, hard year for me. But even despite the hardship, there was always some positive, good things that happened throughout the year. And reading One Piece week to week was definitely one of those positive, good things that I had to look forward to as the year went by. So thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you did. Subscribe to my channel for more One Piece content. Have an amazing 2019, and I'll catch you guys next year. That sounds weird to say, but it's true. Thank you. Bye.